Welcome back to Retirement News Online. Most estate planning mistakes tend to fall into one of several categories. So every plan has unique features, but the same problems and mistakes can reoccur. Many mistakes don't vary with the value of an estate and other factors either. Now, each of these classic mistakes is entirely avoidable. All that's needed is knowledge of what to beware of and a little time working with your planner. And joining me is one of those planners, Bo Caldwell in Portland, Oregon. Bo, thanks for joining us today. Talk about the importance of updating beneficiary designations.
That's a really good point. I'm glad we started with that. It is one of the most important things when it comes to your money and it comes to your retirement savings. A lot of people don't know that their beneficiary designation actually trumps any other estate planning document that they have. So if you have an old 401k that you haven't updated your beneficiary, maybe you weren't married when you started it, or maybe you were married and now you're married to someone different. If you haven't updated your beneficiary, that money actually goes to your ex-spouse or will go to whoever you set it out, even though you'd want it to go to your spouse if you were to pass away. I can't stress enough, you review your beneficiaries on anything that has a beneficiary designation. That's your retirement accounts, your 401ks, your IRAs, your Roth IRAs, any annuities or insurance policies. Make sure that you have the beneficiaries that you want in there, because otherwise the state is going to decide where your money goes instead of you.
Now, what about powers of attorney? How important is that?
Absolutely. Powers of attorney are huge because a lot of people don't realize you're actually not allowed to talk about your husband or your wife's retirement account with their financial advisor unless they're there and present or have signed a power of attorney for you. So if you're traveling outside of the country, or your husband or wife is traveling outside the country and something, heaven forbid, happens to you, they actually can't call that advisor and get that money out unless that's been set up. So it's really big deal to have that durable power of attorney for financial matters set up. So in case something happens, it's one of those things that if you don't do it, then you're going to need it. But if you do it, then you're prepared for it.
Sometimes a trust is created and never funded. Talk about the importance of that.
I don't really know, except for I think people just don't follow up. So they meet with a estate planning attorney, they do all this work, they pay this money to get this estate plan done and get this trust drafted, and then they don't end up putting the funds or putting their assets in the trust. And kind of goes back to what we just talked about. The real bad thing about that is then your assets go through probate and they go based on what the state decides, not based on what you decide. And the really, really terrible thing, and I lean on estate attorneys for this, but I've heard numbers from $25,000 to $30,000 is what it can cost your heirs if you haven't properly funded your trust for them to go through that probate administration. If you have a revocable trust, work with your estate attorney, talk to them, make sure that everything is titled in the trust that needs to be titled into the trust. We work with our clients hand in hand with their estate attorneys to make sure that all of our assets that we manage for them are titled correctly. We help them to make sure that all their assets that are not necessarily investments. A lot of people don't know that your home needs to be in the revocable trust if you have a revocable trust. So work with your estate attorney, make sure that you're doing exactly what they're telling you to do.
And finally, it's important to establish medical directives, isn't it?
It is. It's sort of a theme here that we're talking about making sure that your wishes are followed instead of the wishes of another. But the other part about a medical directive is it takes that burden off your family. So heaven forbid you're in an accident or you're not able to be resuscitated and you're going to be in a vegetative state, or any sort of decision that has to be made medically. It's a really rough time for your spouse, for your family, and if you have medical directives set up and you've shared them with your doctor, you've shared them with your family, it takes that burden off of them, and it really makes sure that your wishes are followed instead of somebody else's wishes. So just like the trust, just like the power of attorney, just like the beneficiary designations, the big thing is to make sure that what you want to happen, happens.
That's Bo Caldwell in Portland, Oregon. Thanks for watching Retirement News Online.